Alhamdulillah wa kafa wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل للذين آمنوا يغفروا للذين لا يرجون أيام الله ليجزي قوما بما كانوا يكسبون من عمل صالحا فلنفسه ومن أساء فعليها ثم إلى ربكم ترجعون ولقد آتينا بني إسرائيل الكتاب والحكم والنبوة ورزقناهم من الطيبات وفضلناهم على العالمين وآتيناهم بينات من الأمر فما اختلفوا إلا من بعد ما جاءهم العلم بغيا بينهم إن ربك يقضي بينهم يوم القيامة فيما كانوا فيه يختلفون ثم جعلناك على شريعة من الأمر فاتبعها ولا تتبع أهواء الذين لا يعلمون إنهم لن يغنوا عنك من الله شيئا وإن الظالمين بعضهم أولياء بعض والله ولي المتقين هذا بصائر للناس وهدى ورحمة لقوم يوقنون أم حسب الذين اجترحوا السيئات أن نجعلهم كالذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات سواء محياهم ومماتهم ساء ما يحكمون صدق الله العظيم. Alhamdulillah, all praises for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most gracious, most merciful. And may infinite amount of blessings and peace be upon the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So alhamdulillah, today we're looking at Surah Jathiyah from ayah 14 till 21. So previously, before this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about his book, the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that this is a book from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there was mention of Dalail al-Qudra. Dalail al-Qudra means the proofs of the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he's that you can know the creator who's behind the creation. Then it talks about the liars and sinful people who would try to deny the revelation, the clear verses of the Quran, that the only way to do so is that you have to be a very big liar and very deceitful, sinful, in order for you to make up and say that it's some revelation beyond this revelation. Right? You would have to make up a lie and then another lie and cover up that lie. So it mentions them. And then it talks about painful punishment. And it talks about that this was the situation of the mushrikeen of Makkah. So today the first verse, verse 14. So because previously there was no ilmi or aqli, the mushrikeen weren't understanding any ilmi and aqli dalils. Ilmi dalil is like proof, revelation proof. That's a knowledge-based, text-based proof. And aqli dalil is just logic. So they weren't. The mushrikeen of Makkah were not understanding any ilm aqli dalil. So the Muslims, and remember, Surah Jathiyah is a Makki surah. This is where the Muslims are in Makkah. They were ready for some amali dalil. Like they were about to get physical with them because they were kept mocking, and the previous verses talk about they kept mocking them. So they're just like, we need to take some revenge. They're harming us, saying bad things about us. They have no right to this. So I think we should take some amali step. So this verse 14 is to tell them, be patient. That now is not the time. That of course, those who oppress you, you can take a shot at them. People who understand there's rules for engagement, but now isn't the time. Right now is against you because they are the majority. You're a minority. You trying to even get them back for what they're doing to you, it's just not going to be in your best interest. So there are many verses like this in the Quran that telling in the Makkah period, telling them to just have sabr, just go through whatever you're going through. This is one of those. So the translation is, قُلْ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, say, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to those who believe, يَغْفِرُوا لِلَّذِينَ لَا يَرْجُونَ, that they should pardon those who don't look forward to the hereafter. Here, ayyam Allah means hereafter. Meaning that telling the believers, forgive those who don't have belief in the akhirah, لِيَجْزِيَ قَوْمًا, because people will be judged with what they earned on the Yawm al-Qiyamah. Meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning that Quran is asking you to just be patient, let it go. And don't think that if you're letting it go, doesn't mean that's always going to be let go. I mean, of course, there's Yawm al-Qiyamah. So remember that in life, sometimes you have to let go of things. Right? You can't always get back at things. Sometimes let go. And the reason, and it's not that you're letting it go. Even if that's sabr, you should realize it's going to be a Yawm al-Qiyamah. So justice will be played out. So this was being told to them. Also, the context of this verse, there's a story of Abdullah ibn Ubay, the Munafiq of Medina. In the context of this verse is also his story as well. This story of Abdullah ibn Ubay is mentioned elsewhere in the Quran as a context to different verses, but it's also mentioned as a context to this verse as well. What is that famous story of Abdullah ibn Ubay, the Munafiq? That there were some, in Medina, people used to go out to fill water. They had their employees go fetch water for them, for the home. So Abu Bakr, Omar, the Prophet ﷺ, all the Muslims, the Munafiqs, everyone would send their person to go fetch some water for them. So someone had a dispute over there. I think someone just suggested. You look at the Munafiqeen who just like to always poke at things, right? They'll always like to aggravate things. So someone just poked. Obviously, the Muslims were there. They're like, okay, the first person whose water we're going to fill is the Prophet ﷺ. Normally, they didn't have disputes over it. They all made up their mind who's going to get the water first. But the slaves or the people who were going to fetch the water for Rasulullah, they suggested that no, first Prophet ﷺ didn't get it. Then Abu Bakr was going to get it. So Abdullah ibn Ubay himself wasn't even there. His worker was also there. He said, no, I think Abdullah ibn Ubay is going to get it. Because he was the leader of the Munafiqeen. Anyways, they didn't listen to him and they carried on to put the water first for Rasulullah ﷺ. So this news got to Abdullah ibn Ubay and he became very upset and angry about this. He was already a Munafiq, right? Munafiq is a person, i'tiqadan. He's just faking his Islam. So then the truth comes out. You can't hide it for so long. And he ended up saying kalimat al-kufr. And normally, obviously, they would have their own circles. So no one would hear Abdullah ibn Ubay saying that they would have their own Munafiq circles. We don't know what they're saying. But a Muslim happened to Qatada radiallahu anhu, a young Sahabi was passing, he overheard. And he was saying very bad things about the Muslims. That, like in Medina, we let the Muslims come in, right, into the city, but now look, they're overtaking us. He made a huge issue out of it and used very bad language. So this Sahabi, he heard it, and what did he do? He was innocent, young Sahabi. He went and told Prophet ﷺ, how's Abdullah ibn Ubay look with bad language and that he's using against the Muslims. Prophet ﷺ just dismissed it as a young man. Just let it go. It's no big deal. Maybe he didn't say, maybe you misheard, you young person. So then Abdullah ibn Ubay he said, no, you need to bring him over, Abdullah ibn Ubay, and ask him what he said. So Abdullah ibn Ubay was brought. Abdullah ibn Ubay took oaths. They were very good at that, the Munafiqs. They would say wallahi on anything and just they could just get away with anything. So he just said, wallahi, I didn't, I swear I didn't. Then on this, the Surah Munafiqun was revealed. The Surah about the hypocrites. So Surah about the hypocrites was revealed, so he got exposed. And that the young man was right and this man is wrong. So at that point, they became more furious. he said the following statement, Abdullah ibn Ubay, لِيُخْرِجَنَّ الْأَعَزُّ مِنْهَا الْأَذَلُّ, that, oh, we're done now. We're going to take the Muslims out. We are the honorable, the humiliated are the Muslims, we're going to take them out. But these are just his comments. So, and then some other Sahabas, they wanted to take revenge, but Prophet told them not to. So some say that this is that. But then some people say that this context is a Madani context. The surah was a Makki surah. So they say that sometime in Makki surahs, you do get a Madani ayat. And also vice versa. So this could be that it could be for that context, or it could be just generally sabr upon the mushriks. So this verse telling them that they should forgive those who don't have fear of Yawm al-Qiyamah, and that everyone will have their recompense on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Then the next verse, ayah 15, Man amila salihan, that whoever does a righteous deed, فَلِنَفْسِهِ, then he does it for himself. وَمَنْ أَسَاءَ, and whoever does evil deeds, فَعَلَيْهَا, the burden is upon one's shoulders. ثُمَّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكُمْ تُرْجَعُونَ, then you will return to your Lord. So this is a general verse to giving us the nasiha that when you do good, you're not helping, like when we do good, we're not helping Allah with our worships. No. You are just passing the test of the world that you have been created into. So if everybody was to do wrong, the whole world doesn't make no difference to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If everybody was to do good, the whole planet wouldn't make any difference to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's shan or anything like that. It just betters ourselves. Also, remember that bad actions take forms on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Nothing goes under the radar. This is the radar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing goes under the radar. Even your hearts are measured, how much taqwa you have. Understand? So nothing goes under the radar, and bad actions take forms. Understand? Forms in Yawm al-Qiyamah. Like, the azabs that we hear about in Yawm al-Qiyamah is our bad actions that are taking forms over there. Understand? So we have to disconnect and delete from those things of the dunya, or else they're the ones who are going to take form. All the punishment we hear of is our own actions. They are taking form in the next world in that way. Allahumma hafazna, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect. Now the next verse, before we begin the next verse after that. So from the beginning of the surah till now, it was about general gifts of God. Now it's talking about specific gifts. So what were the general gifts? The general gifts is Quran, the qudra of Allah, the nature. You could realize your creator by looking at the creation. These are the general blessings that were mentioned so far. Now they're going to specific blessings. What are specific blessings? He's going to say about that, look, you're a Muslim, you have the holy book, you've been given, you've been preferred over other people. You're lucky that you have. But obviously, the Quran is not going to give our example. The Quran says Bani Israel. Like it says, look at Bani Israel. We gave Bani Israel a holy book. We gave them hukumat, governments. We gave them prophethood. We gave them good foods. And we made them superior to all nations. What the manner of the Quran is, it likes to talk indirectly. And that's a very honorable way of doing things. So instead of just pointing at us out, it's just saying, look, the Muslims of the past, they had superiority. But if you think about it, we know from hadith that, and our ulama tell us that no, we are the superior nation now. They were the superior at their time. We are the superior now. And if you look at what Bani Israel and what Quran is describing, that look how much we've gifted you, we have all those gifts. I was just reflecting upon this, where it says the holy book, we have a holy book, right? Unmatched. Then hukuma, we even have hukuma, right? There's so many countries like in the world, and I think if you even look at it, I think other nations don't have hukuma like the way we have. Like, we can at least say that there's some 20, 30 countries that are Muslim in a way, and some of the other ones, like even we say things about the Jewish community, right? But do they have their own country? I think they're fighting over one, but that they're trying to have one. Understand how we say they're so big and bad, but we can't really even attribute one. Do the Hindus have their own country? No, I mean they're doing some terrorist activities happening now to try to get them one, but it's not. So look, Allah, like we have something to resort to even on the earth. That's why we have, we can walk up with a head up high. That we have nubuwa, we have holy book, we have countries that are about, and are we eating well? That's what we sustain you with pure foods. And then we've chosen you. Are we selected? Yes, chosen you. With big responsibility that you have the final deen. Now every Muslim has to do Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar, right? The idea of commanding the good and forbidding the evil. It's the responsibility not just of our shuyukh and scholars, right? It's the responsibility of everyone. The shuyukh and them, they just do it at the very higher level, but everybody does. So let's go into that. So now these are specific blessings upon us. So let's translate. وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا, and we gave Bani Israel al-Kitab. And everyone knows Bani Israel. Israel was the name of Yaqub alayhi salam, children of Yaqub alayhi salam. The Kitab. Kitab here refers to Torah. Torah is praised and elsewhere in the Quran as well. It's after the Quran. You know how the Quran is a very comprehensive final law. Other religions, although the true religions that had come down, they weren't as comprehensive as the Quran. But after the Quran, the most comprehensive is Torah. Okay? But the Quran is even more comprehensive and complete, right? Because now with the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we're able to deduce any law. Till Yawmul Qiyamah, we are like not missing anything. Any new thing comes up, we know how to sort it out. So this is the complexity of it. So we gave Bani Israel the Torah. Hukum here means hukuma, governance. وَالنُّبُوَّةِ, prophethood. وَرَزَقْنَاهُمْ, and we sustained them مِنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ, from the pure things. And if you think about it from Bani Israel, well, how were they sustained with good things? Remember when they were saved from Qu'ran? Then they were sustained. Remember at some point with man and salwa, this is a reference to them. They had very special foods. And at some point, they became greedy over it. They were told that you can have all this food, but just don't store it. And they started storing it. So like that, they became ungrateful, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put his punishment on them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us of them. فَضَّلْنَاهُمْ عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ, and we preferred them over the worlds. So who's the best nation now? Obviously the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Anybody who accepts the Nubuwwah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you're in part of the best nation. And you have a huge responsibility on your shoulders. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to fulfill it. Okay, next verse, ayah 13. وَآتَيْنَاهُمْ بَيِّنَاتٍ مِنَ الْأَمْرِ, and we gave them proofs of the matter of religion. But they did not do ikhtilaf, except that knowledge had come to them. Meaning they deferred after revelation had come to them. Bani Israel, they had holy book, but they're doing ikhtilaf among themselves. See, the Quran doesn't like that. That if you're a man of holy book, then you're doing ikhtilaf, doesn't suit you. Because see, when you have a holy book, you should have some certainty of what you're talking about. You have a holy book, and then you're having like big ikhtilaf. And why did they have ikhtilaf? بَغْيًا بَيْنَهُم. They were jealous. The Bani Israel amongst themselves, the Muslims of the past, they were jealous. إِنَّ رَبَّكَ يَقْضِي, verily your Lord, He will decree between them on Yawm al-Qiyamah in that which they used to defer. Take, your Lord will decree in regards to what they used to ikhtilaf. What we're learning from this ayah is that if you're a nation who's been given the holy book, it doesn't suit you that you're fighting with one another as Muslims, fighting amongst themselves in an inappropriate way, meaning being jealous of each other. These things doesn't suit us. Okay. So now I'm just going to expound on this idea, okay? The idea of what? Having revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and doing ikhtilaf or doing other immoral acts. I'm going to expound on this, give you some more verses to connect with this, inshallah. What happens when Muslims dispute? The unnecessary dispute, that is. Obviously, proper dispute and in understanding, that's rahmah. That's rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like the Hanafi fiqh, Shafi fiqh, these are rahmats of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's mercy in it. There's actually literal mercy in it. But the ones that are not liked by Sharia is unnecessary disputes. What happens when you do unnecessary disputes? The wrong one, out of jealousy, out of hatred, out of your arrogance, you lose blessings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make you lose your blessings. So let's take an example of that. One example is when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was given the date of Laylatul Qadr. He was given the Laylatul Qadr and he was coming out just to let the Muslims know exactly which date. So we would just know exactly which day we had to do ibadah. But there are two people who were arguing about a debt that they had to settle. So Rasulullah got distracted in settling their debt. And then by the time he got to the masjid, he forgot the date. And he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala must have done that. How could I? Usually when he used to get revelation, it was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He would, Rasulullah wasn't like our Hafiz al-Quran. Like our Hafiz al-Quran read Taraweeh and they repeat the verses. His miracle was that he would retain everything. Because coming from the Creator. So the preservation was also by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But he forgot the date. So he's saying this must be because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us this is how bad Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't like when you're disputing. So we're very, very mindful. Even in our homes, we have to be mindful. We have to be with akhlaq towards each other. We have to display good akhlaq towards one another and try not to do any unnecessary disputes. This is rudna. Allah SWT says in one place in the Quran, وَأَضَلَّهُ اللَّهُ عَلَىٰ عِلْمٍ, that there are some people who, because despite revelation, they were misled. So you have revelation, but you're still misled. You're going on the wrong track. So we learned that, of course, you can be a religious person, but still be doing wrong activities. And then it says, وَخَتَمَ عَلَى سَمْعِهِ وَقَلْبِهِ, that on the hearing and on the heart, you're going to have a stamp. Normally when we read the verses of the stamp, we read them for the munafiqs and kafir. They have a stamp that will prevent them from understanding Islam, right? They won't even come near Islam because of it. But as a Muslim, you could still be a victim of this. That as you have the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then because you follow your desires, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has closed, like He won't have further mercy on you because of it. Because your evil deeds take a person there. This concept that you have ilm, revelation. Ilm, obviously in the Quran, means revelationary knowledge. And then you're doing things of misguidance. This is repeated. Many places you have hints of this, many, many places. What do we learn from it? We learn from it that it's very bad that you're a person of ahli ilm. You have ilm, like yourself, like ourselves here, students of ilm. And then when you follow your desires, it's worse. It's worse. Meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't like it. The consequences are very dire. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all ahli ilm. We have to, life is, obviously the test is going on. We're not in Jannah. Understand? So we have to work hard. But to seek ilm doesn't mean that now that you say, okay, I'm not going to seek ilm. It seems like if a jahil follows his desires, he seems to, no, it's not that being jahil is not a solution either. That's not because we're encouraged to seek ilm. We're going to seek the revelation of ilm, but then be more mindful of our actions. Like the one hadith says, وَيْلٌ لِلْجَاهِلِ مَرَّةً, like woe be to an ignorant person once, or وَيْلٌ لِلْعَالِمِ سَبْعَ مَرَّات, and woe be to an alim 7 times. Meaning in regards to immorality. Like if a jahil is doing immorality, it's woe to him once. But alim is doing some immorality, woe to him 7 times. Also another hadith comes to mind. The first inmates, when the Yawm al-Qiyamah will start, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring forth an alim, a famous hadith, an alim, a shaheed. He'll bring forward a rich person to give a lot of charity. And tell them, I'm going to just cut the hadith short. Tell them, you're going to go to Jannah. So we're going to start off with you. It's because they were insincere. Remember we talked about it in my Friday lectures, the adverse effects of being insincere. So the alim will say, no, I spent my whole life teaching. And then I was always teaching. Shaheed will say, I gave my life. I was martyred. And the rich person will say, I gave charities all along. But Allah will say, no, you did it because you wanted to show. So we're not going to accept it. And you're having an adverse effect. So what do we learn from that hadith? Do we learn that, then we shouldn't be the rich person who gives charity, we shouldn't be the alim, we don't learn. That's not the message of that hadith. The message of the hadith is insincerity has an adverse effect. That's the message of it. Okay. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us ilm, and then may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala act with wisdom. Give us tawfiq to act with wisdom, inshallah. Then the next verse, ثُمَّ جَعَلْنَاكَ عَلَى شَرِيعَةٍ, then we have placed you upon a path of the religion, فَاتَّبِعْهَا, so follow it, وَلَا تَتَّبِعْ أَهْوَاءَ الَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ, and don't follow the desires of those who don't have ilm. So telling Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we have shown you this path of Shariat, walk on it, don't follow the desires of those who don't have ilm. Obviously telling Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but then telling us, so we're going to have ilm, and after ilm we should not follow our desires, right? Because that's detrimental. You're a person of ilm and then you're following your desires. No. And then the other is, you're a person of ilm, people who don't have revelation knowledge, they want you to follow desires. Don't follow them. And an analogy for this, you can think of Islam like a motorway or like a highway. Islam is like a highway. And this analogy is actually given in hadith. How is Islam like a highway? Islam is like a highway. And this highway leads to the end. And at the end is a caller who's saying, come on this way, come on this way. And that person at the end, this analogy from hadith. The person at the end is Quran. So the Quran keeps guiding you, like, come on, this is the main highway. You just keep coming, throughout your lifetime. Keep coming. And on this highway, there's homes on the side, and they have curtains. It's blocked by some big curtains, and then there's a voice coming, come on this way. When you take the exit, get off the highway. And then there's a voice inside you who's telling you, no, don't listen to these people in these curtains. Where the person who's calling you from there, carry on. That voice inside is your conscience. It's also known as in Arabic wa'iz, right? Everybody has a conscience. We can't let our conscience die. Okay, and then the voice on the side, those are ahwa, desires of the world. And at the end, that's Quran. At the end, that's Quran, saying coming forward. And even your inner self is saying, keep going, this is the way, this is the way. But on the side, you've got all these homes that are saying, no, come on this way. They want you to get off the path. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us. This wa'iz that we have inside of us, don't let it shut down. What happens is that sometimes when we don't listen to our inner conscience for a long time, we stop hearing it. You get it? Because for a long time your conscience was like, this is wrong, and you kept going, following your desires. Then what will happen is that this inner voice will just stop. Because you can't hear it. I don't know what's the analogy for that. Like some voice has just become overcome by the other noises. But then may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give tawfiq to purify our hearts. Moving on. وَإِنَّهُمْ لَن يُغْنُوا عَنْكَ مِنَ اللَّهِ شَيْئًا. They cannot avail you from Allah anything. وَإِنَّ الظَّالِمِينَ, and verily those who do wrong, some of them are the protective friends of others. وَاللَّهُ وَلِيُّ الْمُتَّقِينَ, and Allah is a protective friend of the muttaqeen. So we learn from this ayah that we don't, since you're a person who's been given the deen, so you don't copy others. You don't copy others. You don't follow. No one else is going to help you. Understand? You have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who's going to help you. You don't need to look here and there. One hadith comes to mind thinking about this ayah. The hadith that comes to mind is Man tashabbaha biqawmin fahuwa minhum. It's one of our teachings which says whoever imitates a people, they're from them. So this is a comprehensive hadith. We as Muslims, we're not allowed to copy other nations. And the reason that is because you have true deen. Since you have a perfect deen, you have a perfect culture, how to live, how to dress, you have all this, that's why we're not allowed to copy. That's why we don't partake in. Let's just say you didn't have a perfect deen. You had like a belief system, may Allah protect, a belief system that you weren't even so certain about it yourself. Then maybe you copying other people. Makes sense. But if you have the perfect deen, then you can't be copying other people. It's prohibited. So sometimes the Muslims, nowadays when we see Muslim marriages, how are the Muslim weddings? They're Indian. Okay. Muslim weddings have become Indian. So we don't follow that, and then don't follow the way of the non-Muslims. Disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This doesn't suit us. Those who do wrong, meaning those who are not on the straight path, they're protected friends of each other. And who's your protected friend? Those who have taqwa, Allah is your protected friend. So do the right thing. They have sabr, have taqwa, inshallah Allah will reward. All right, moving on. هَذَا بَصَائِرُ لِلنَّاسِ. These are insights for mankind. وَهُدًى, and guidance and a mercy لِقَوْمِ يُوقِنُونَ, for people of certainty. This word here, basair, insight. In Arabic, when you say physical sight, is basarat. And spiritual insight is called basirat. Okay. And basair is the plural of basirat, insight. So meaning that this means that we're giving you insight, meaning that your soul is being guided. We're giving you how your soul needs to be. This is used elsewhere in the Quran as well. Elsewhere in the Quran it says, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي, say this is my path, أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ. O Prophet ﷺ, say this is my path, I'm calling to Allah, عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ, upon an insight. I am وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي, and those who follow me. Also elsewhere in the Quran it says, هَذَا بَصَائِرُ مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ, these are insights from your Lord and guidance and a mercy. So the Quran obviously is a book of insight, right? It's a book of, one is physical sight, and one is insight. So it's giving you spiritual guidance. A person gets spiritually healed. A person is put on the right track because of it. May Allah Subhanahu make it so for us. Thank you. When you recite Quran, as we come here to reflect upon some verses, it's a book. I was telling the students this morning, the young students who come, that it's a book that has it all. When you recite the Quran, when you connect with the Quran, it's like it's all in one. You can have connection with your Creator, you can have forgiveness of sin, your darajat are being raised, you're getting sawab, your connection is being established, nur is being developed inside. So it's a book in all. So And I was telling the children, I was like telling them to recite loudly when they recite, and make that intention. But a human being has physical illnesses. He also has Quran is a cure for physical illnesses and spiritual illnesses. And so when you read it with that intention, then Allah Subhanahu will grant you. Okay? Because the book itself says that it's a cure, right? Shifa. So also another thing, today in the world, irtidad is very aam. You know what irtidad means? People leaving Islam is common. It's common. People leave Islam. Okay? Irtidad is aam. It's general. Globally, you'd find people leaving Islam. Yes. Now, they're not doing it because they had a very intelligence, and then they found a superior deen to Islam and they're well calculated. No, not because of that. Not because of that. They would leave it is because they're not practicing the deen. They're not practicing the deen. Though the analogy of that is, for example, so look, the true deen, there's fitna out there, right? We live in a world of tests. So there's elements out there who want you to take away your iman, right? Everything wants to take away your iman, right? It's fitna out there. Your nafs, dunya, shaitan, hawa. So when you come to the masjid for Jumu'ah, when you come to this session here, when you stay close to your Maulana Sahib, and you utna baithna with Maulana Sahib, and when you do that, your nur-e-iman increases. The nur of your iman increases. So you're like a candle, and it increases. So now when you're out there in the world, there's winds that want to take away your iman. So if it's like a cold wind and you have a nice fire, you notice how when the wind comes, the fire you notice that the fire just turned off because it's a huge wind blast, but then it comes back. So that's the example of those Muslims who practice their deen, who are praying 5 times a day, or coming to the masjid. They're like that candle. When something hits them, doesn't matter. They're gonna just come back. Because they might lose some, right? You might lose some nur, but you keep coming back to them. You have some, but you'll still survive. But those Muslims who don't pray, who are not doing their salah, not attending their Jumu'ah, then when they get one of those jhonkas, one of those fast winds, then they end up losing their had. In Urdu they say had do berte, meaning that they just say, oh no, we don't believe in anything. So this is a reality. This is a reality. So this is not, but it's not that those people who are doing it, they're so smart. They're making some wise decisions. If you go back into anybody who's done irtidad, people's kids, they lose their iman. Now when the world is a global village, again, so it is a reality. So what's the lesson we learn, guys? Lesson we learn is this candle. We are in a world that's going to challenge our faith. So you have to pray salah. You have to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to keep refreshing your iman. If you're not going to do that, then one of those jhonkas is going to come and somebody's going to lose their iman. Then you're going to have to talk to him and counsel him and go through all the 9 yards. And so may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. Moving on. حَسِبَ الَّذِينَ Ayah 21. حَسِبَ الَّذِينَ اجْتَرَحُوا السَّيِّئَاتِ. Do you think those who commit sins, and naj'alahum, that will make them like those who have faith and do righteous deeds? What's Allah SWT saying? That do you think that people who commit sins and those who don't commit sins, who have iman and do amal salih, they're the same? Sawa'um mahyahum wa mamatuhum, that their living and their death will be the same? No. Sa'a ma yahkumun. This is the final verse. Sa'a ma, how evil is it that you judge? If you even think that they're going to be the same, you're making bad judgments in this world. But you think that I'm going to treat the criminals and then those people of taqwa the same. This is the final verse for today's dars, inshallah. A person has to. So what is this verse teaching us? It's teaching us that you have to work hard. You have to work hard on your taqwa. Don't think that if you didn't have taqwa in this world, right? You did wrong behavior, that somehow you're going to be just like those who did proper behavior, those who lived a more righteous, meticulous, careful, pure life. You're not going to be same as them. Yeah, Allah SWT may have His fadl upon you, but He's still not going to treat you the same. Allah SWT has adl and Allah SWT has His fadl. Adl is justice and fadl is His grace. Obviously, we're going to work hard in life and hope for His fadl, hope for his fadl, that he has his fadl upon us. But this verse is teaching us that fine, his fadl, but it's still not going to be the same. That's why we always say that you have to work really hard in life, and this many verses like that are reminding of this. That never think that you're going to do wrong behavior, and there's people in the world who don't do wrong behavior, that you guys will be treated the same. Allah Subhanahu may have his fadl upon you, but again, it just won't be the same. Unki darajat, unki ranking higher. They're going to have more ease. So may Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala make us from the pious ones and make this taqwa easy for us. There are two big Salaf al-Salihin. One is Hazrat Tamim al-Dari rahmatullah alayh. Hazrat Tamim al-Dari rahmatullah alayh, Sahabi. When he read this verse, Am hasiba alladhina ijtarahu as-sayyi'ati an naj'alahum fil ladina, the one we're doing now, he cried all night. All night he cried reading this. So just imagine that now. He's a Sahabi. Right? So when he reflected upon this verse, that those who do wrong, those are things, do you even come up with those thoughts? They're going to be the same. That's very wrong of how you're judging. He cried all night just reading this one verse. Another Salaf Salihin, Fuzail ibn Iyaz, right? You must have heard Fuzail ibn Iyaz, usually one of the saints of the past. Maybe not Sahabi, I'm not sure if he's Sahabi, but from the earlier 3 centuries, the same process with him. When he just reading this verse, cried all night. So, again, that's the law side, right? The fact that they're not going to be treated the same. But we hope in the fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We hope in the fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah. And also, we hope in the fadl of Allah, but not just hope only in the fadl of Allah, also realizing the adl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That we're going to have to make efforts. This verse is reminding us that you're going to have to make efforts. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. Ameen. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi subhanallah.